Heath Johnson from Spearfish, South Dakota. There are things in this world that are not quite right, but there are also those that are right on. Here's a little dose of Right On from Doug Pagitt Radio.
Thanks to Heath for our intro to our little Right On segments where we get to be told that, yes, there are some things in this world that are broken. There's some things in this world that you have to lament. There's some things in this world that you have to just say, it needs to come to an end.
Preach it.
But there are also some things in this world that are the way they're supposed to be. Some things in this world that are good, that are right, that bring strength and bring faith and bring hope and bring love and all the rest of us. So our Right On segment is our chance to sing out that there are some things in this world that are the way they're supposed to be, and we're not just going to complain. We're not just going to lament. We're not just going to talk about the things that are
this is where John Music would do like
need of improvement.
A little old lady with a hat in church and go, "Whoa!"
Yeah,
that's
He'd start singing the gospel songs.
I used to love that.
So we have these things in the world that we can cheer on, right? And you know who's going to get the Right On today?
No,
Victoria Lynn Peterson Hillique.
I don't think that's legal.
For you to receive the Right On?
Yeah.
Oh, it is totally legal.
This is
unregulated radio.
Win contests when you
This is totally unregulated radio. If I can be given the cripes, come on, you've got to be kidding me.
That's different.
Then you can receive the Right On, and you receive the Right On for the work that you're doing with Project Extended Arms. Because I want people to contribute to this. So our inaugural Wednesday edition of the Right On is going to cheer you on for what you're doing with Project Extended Arms. Tell us about Project Extended Arms.
Well, it's a project to help fund baby holders at an orphanage in Guatemala for where children live. It's not just an orphanage, but it's an orphanage where children live who are living with HIV and AIDS.
Mm-hmm.
And in Guatemala, they'll have drugs their whole life to sustain them. But what the babies at this orphanage don't have are enough people to care for them. And there's not a great understanding of the needs and development of babies there for whatever reason. And so what is happening is as kids grow, they are experiencing long-term effects from neglect. We know that babies who aren't held enough, they don't develop as well. Their intellect and their social and their emotional life doesn't develop as well. They're not as big as other kids. Their size is affected, and it's horrible, and it affects them for all of their lives. It affects their ability to attach to other people and their ability to learn. And so we started this project in the hope to just at the very least hire 2 part-time people to hold the babies and take care of them, and it's become a wonderful example of all the way babies are resilient because they're
And
flourishing.
what I think is great about this, the reason you're going to get the Right On for this is because I was with you when you discovered these babies. We were in Guatemala together, and we went to this orphanage, and we were just looking around, seeing what good work they do at this orphanage with 150 kids or so that are living with the effects of HIV and AIDS. And there was a little nursery, and in the nursery there were 3 or 4 babies at the time, right?
More than
there were more
that.
than 3 or 4. There were
More like 6 to 8.
6 to 8 babies.
Yeah.
And we realized that the babies are just laying in their cribs.
Yeah.
Just laying there. And we said something to the young gals who are running the nursery. And what's great about what they're doing there is these are just young Catholic nuns running the nursery. But they ended up being nuns because they were devout. They didn't end up being nuns because they studied child development. Yeah. So they just didn't know.
They don't know.
They just, this wasn't something they knew. And you said, well, we need to do something to help these babies. So we that day we were there, picked them up and held them and
changed them. They were all soaking wet, not crying.
And that had particular downsides from it for some of us. But then you said, well, let's put together the money to pay some baby hold and kind of worked out all this stuff. And the reason you get the Right On is obviously because the work with these babies is great. But the initiative to say there's something in the world that's not the way it's supposed to be, and you're going to change it, and you're going to make it the way that's supposed to be.
Thanks.
Right on, Victoria Lynn. Good for you.
I just couldn't sleep at night. Those babies were haunting me.
And you chose to take that empathy and that overwhelming sense of pain and grief that you felt for these little sweeties, and you said we should do something about it.
And we did. And
we did.
If you're interested,
And we're doing. So people need to kick in like $600 a month total to care for these little sweeties,
it's $667 a month. And if you're interested in donating to the project, we would love that. That would be really, really great. You can go to Solomon's Porch webpage, and under Contribute, there's a designated spot that says Guatemala Orphanage. And all the money that comes into that slot goes to the baby nannies. And
so if you're listening now, you can go to solomonsporch.com or also go to the Doug Pagitt page on Facebook or the Victoria Lynn profile on Facebook. And I'm sure you'll put a link up there, won't you? And people can click and they can make a one-time donation. They can make a monthly donation.
Yep.
I mean,
and if you want
little
to
$10s and $20 help, $100 helps, $5,000
let me know.
help.
We should put my email on there. Let me know so that I can work out the budget, because we really are looking for monthly donors to give the project some sustainability, some long-term sense of, so that we're not so we're pretty hand-to-mouth right now. It's like each month we're kind of just ringing it in, but it's great. It's great. It's been amazing how much I've worried about it and how unnecessary all the worry has been, because every month we've had enough. So
far.
So
I know there's people who listen to the show that are like in little house groups, or they don't go to official churches. And you probably would have a tough time getting your official church to chip in on something like this, because churches, I run one, they're complicated social organisms, right? There's a lot to do. But some people are in they have little groups, or a family might say, well, like this is an important thing, and if one were to ever end up in Guatemala, this is just outside of Guatemala City, and you could go visit these kids, and it's just the real deal. I mean, this is there's no overhead in this. There's no shenanigans. There's no real organization. Like, the money just is paid to these two people
directly to the salaries
who are there, and what they do is they hold these babies, and that physical presence, that physical touch, the physical holding, it changes these babies' lives.
We have a Facebook page too that people can like if they want, Extended Arms, and you can see some pictures of the little cuties on there. So you might they might want to go check that out, or we might want to put that link on your page. As if I can do this. You might want to put that link.
Yes, it's called Extended Arms, and we will. Yeah, thank you. And we will put that. We'll put that on the Doug Pagitt page on Facebook, so you can click on it and you can like it, and you can see the little babies and see pictures of them and see sort of how it goes. And you can't change the whole world, right? There's children all over the world who are living in really difficult situations. There's people living in difficult situations. There's more places for people to do good in the world accessible to them now than any other time in the history of humankind, right? Like your ability to help out is as needed as ever and more available than ever. So I get it that people are just full. Like, they have a lot of things to do.
Yep.
Have a lot of things to worry about. They have everywhere you go, there's someone with a little project or something. But this one might touch people pretty closely, that there could be anywhere from 4 to 8 to 20 kids at a time. Because the thing about these baby holders is they don't stay babies all that long.
Right.
Like 6 months, 9 months, 12 months later, they're not a baby anymore. They're now a little toddler, and they're sort of going. But these are little babies that are, a day old to a year, I guess. And that crucial period of time for these people to be touched, to be held, to be cared for, is just really dramatic. And so to be sure that someone's there every day, and to make this a normalized practice, and it might be that down the road it can all be run by volunteers, and you don't need someone to sort of break the cycle of just leaving little babies in a crib by themselves. Yeah, it's a super big deal. So right on, Victoria Lynn. Good for you doing the right thing. Because when people do stuff like this, we see the kind of world that we want to see, because we have choices to make in this world, and that's why you get the right on. We have choices to make, that we don't have to live in a world where we just complain, or we just struggle, or where we look around and see that things aren't the way they're supposed to be. We can do something about it. And for those who do, for those whose strength brings strength, whose hope brings hope, whose faith brings faith, and whose love brings love, they get the right on from Doug Pagitt Radio. So Victoria Lynn, that's you today.
Thanks for everybody's good work.
Yeah, there are lots of people who do good work, but I think you did this good work. So you get the right on for that. Hey, stick with us here. We're going to be back with Ani Zonneveld here after the break. Ani's doing some really good work in a better halal. It's going to be an interesting conversation. Ani is our voice of progressive Islam on Pagitt Radio. So stick with us here after the break, and we'll be right back. So if you're listening on Spreaker, just roll to the next one. If you're listening on Ustream and watching on YouTube, do the same thing. We'll be back in a moment.